How do you pronounce your last name?
Oh, yeah, it's Adam Shartoff.
Okay.
Say whatever you want to say. Yeah.
Test, test, test. Hello, fun seekers. This is Mr. Pauly Shore. I'm here with my Jewish Nebuchadnezzar friend, Mr. Adam Shibashik on Film Wax Radio. Coming up shortly, you're going to see some naked babes. Bye.
Perfect.
What do you think?
We'll keep it.
That's good.
It's great. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Adam Shartoff. I'm the host of Film Wax Radio, and I welcome you to the podcast. This is episode number 416. Let's see, today is July 13th, 2017. We have two segments on this episode. The first is with returning Film Wax Radio friend Godfrey Cheshire, this is his third appearance on the podcast. He was one of my first guests, actually, going all the way back to episode number 31, where we talked about his documentary he made some years ago called Moving Midway, which I still recommend people watch. I believe you can find it on a number of digital platforms. Anyway, then he returned on episode 241 with fellow film reviewer Scout DeFoya. And between the two of them, they were covering the New York Film Festival. This is about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. Anyway, Godfrey is back on the podcast because he is in the midst of an Indiegogo campaign, which got, at the time of this recording, 18 days left, which, as of the date that I mentioned today, is, again, the 13th of July. So, yeah, he has about 18 days left. He's trying to raise just $25,000, which is reasonable, for a book he's authoring called In the Time of Kiarostami. Should mention that he was friendly with Kiarostami as well as a number of other Iranian filmmakers. So this looks like it's going to be a great book. You can contribute to it if it's something that turns you on. Go on Indiegogo and do a search, and you can find out a little bit more about it. But it looks like for $45, he'll sign a copy of the book for you, but you can contribute really just about anything you can afford. Oh, and $25, I see you can get a copy of his documentary, Moving Midway, and I'll sign it. Anyway, I always like going back and helping people that have been on and promoting and supporting what they do, so I was only too happy. And, of course, I was always a fan of Kiarostami films myself, so I was only too happy to bring Godfrey on, as much as I was a bit distressed when Abbas Kiarostami died so suddenly last year. At least I think it was last year. It was very recently, regardless. Anyway, so we're going to talk to Godfrey about this new project, this book that he's writing. And then after that, I'm going to finally play the second part of a phone conversation that I had with the filmmaker and actor and filmmaker, musician, artist, Richard Edson. But if you go back to episode number 336, you can hear the first part. But we'll talk about that in just a few minutes after we finish with this first segment. Richard is just somebody who I loved. When I was a young man living in New York and just sort of coming into my own and discovering independent films at this very exciting time in the mid-'80s to mid-'90s, I was introduced to Richard Edson's work when I saw first time when I saw Stranger Than Paradise, which I think was his first film role. And he played Eddie to John Lurie's Willie. They were buddies, although kind of odd couple-ish type of energy between the two, you know. But it was a great introduction to this actor. And then, of course, he pops up again in many films after that. He opened all sorts of doors for Richard. But perhaps most notably, he did a couple of films with Spike Lee, including, of course, a very memorable turn in Do the Right Thing, where, you know, he's matched up with John Turturro, former Film Wax Radio guest, on that, you know, working for Danny Aiello in the pizzeria on that famous block in Bed-Stuy. Anyway, we'll get to Richard Edson in just a few minutes. But first, this is a conversation with Godfrey Cheshire. We had this it took place in the Village in Godfrey's apartment. So here we go, my conversation with Godfrey Cheshire. I think this is maybe your third time on. I'm just off the top of my head.
I think so, yeah.
So you move up into the Silver Club.
Okay.
Whether it's a good thing or bad, I don't know.
Right.
But
right.
Thank you for doing it again.
Right.
How you been?
I've been good. I've been very busy.
Mm-hmm.
I've been traveling a lot as well.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, you were in Iran?
I was in Iran. I was in Hawaii. I was in Mexico. I was on the Pacific. I was in Colombia. I was in Ashland, Oregon. I was in North
wait a minute.
Carolina.
So tell me about Ashland. No, I'm kidding around.
Ashland is a great film festival. The Ashland Independent Film Festival, run by Richard Herskowitz, who is a very, very good film festival runner and promoter and programmer. And it was a great festival. I got to do a Q&A with James Ivory about Howard's End. Yeah.
Sure.
I did one with my friend Catherine Diekman about her new film, Strange Weather, which comes out this month. And I did one with
I had heard about that movie.
my friend Matias Pinheiro. Yeah, so it was really very good. And
I was joking, Godfrey, because you mentioned all these exotic locations when I went with Oregon.
Yeah.
I thought you'd appreciate it. What are these festivals mostly? I mean, Iran we're going to get to because you were invited to. You were the only American, I think, who was invited to speak at this. Was it a memorial of some sort?
It was a tribute to Kiarostami, a 3-day tribute to him.
Abbas Kiarostami.
That's right.
And you spoke after his son, or what was
that?
What happened?
Actually, his son Ahmad, his older son, was supposed to be there, and I was supposed to speak, and he was supposed to speak, and he couldn't make it at the last minute because of business complications, and so he sent a video that they played in front of the speakers. So I spoke. I was one of 4 speakers that spoke after his video played.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this stage, you are widely known, internationally known for your expertise, your passion for Iranian cinema, which goes back, I think,
25 years.
25 years to when, even before the average American film critic, let's say, or cineasts were discovered.
Right.
When was that? Do you think that was in the late 90s? Or?
It was actually in the early 90s.
Okay.
It was very specifically in the fall of 1992. Lincoln Center hosted the first festival of post-revolutionary Iranian cinema that there had been in New York. And the editor of Film Comment asked me if I would go take a look and see if it was worth an article. I didn't know anything was going on in Iran, so I went with very minimal interest, but was really blown away by the amazing films I saw there and the amazing directors I saw there. So that not only got me to start writing about it, and I wrote a very long and enthusiastic article for Film Comment. It got me so interested that from there on I pursued it as a subject and as a specialty. And so I was ahead of other American critics because I don't know any other critic that went to that festival. It was mainly Iranians that went to that festival. And
that was at Lincoln Center, you said?
It was at Lincoln Center. It was the Walter Reed. The Walter Reed had just recently opened at that point.
Okay. I wonder who programmed that.
Well, Richard Pena, was in charge. He was the one that got it there, but I think the festival was put together by the people at the Toronto International Film Festival.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They have a very large immigrant population in Canada, even larger than here, I believe.
Well, the main thing I think is that festival is 10 times the size of the New York Film Festival.
Yeah.
So they have lots of international cinema every year with over 300 films to show.
I guess I'm just kind of wondering when Iranian cinema became a thing. It was significant enough, or there was enough films being made and enough filmmakers creating films where all of a sudden that became a spot.
The Iranian government revived their cinema very programmatically after the revolution, starting in early 1980s, and by 1985 they had their first crop of films, and from there they started submitting those films to international festivals and started getting in and getting attention. Kiarostami's first post-revolutionary feature, Where's the Friend's House, won a prize at Locarno in 1987, and so they started winning prizes like that. They started getting known, and so by 1992, when there was this festival at Lincoln Center, there was just a full complement of films that had come out in the previous 7 years, basically, that added up to one very great film festival.
And you said you did the Film Comment article in 90. You said
it came out in early 93.
93. Okay, so you really you came upon it as a special category of film in the early 90s. When was it roughly when everybody else sort of caught on? Because it was
really starting in about 95, because that was the year that The White Balloon by Jafar Panahi won the Camera d'Or at Cannes. But even before then, I mean, Kiarostami's And Life Goes On was at Cannes in 92. his Through the Olive Trees got quite a bit of attention in '94.
Okay.
But The White Balloon became the first film to have an international art house success, and winning the prize at Cannes. That was the first big prize won by an Iranian film, or that was the biggest prize to date won by an Iranian film. So I sort of dated as '95 was when it really began to reach a lot of critics.
And that was Jafar Panahi, right?
That was Panahi, written by Kiarostami.
Oh, right. They collaborated.
Yeah.
It's funny because that is the first Iranian film I saw. And I remember going to see, and I saw it at the New York Film Festival. Because that year, never having, maybe only have going to one film before that at the New York Film Festival, I just didn't ever go. But in the '95, I guess it was '95 or '96, I guess I bought a block of tickets for the New York Film Festival, and that's where I saw The White Balloon.
Yeah.
So now, all these years later, 20 years later, you are publishing a book.
Yeah. I had been working on a book some years ago, and I put it aside for various reasons. And after Kiarostami died last summer, I just decided I had to come back and finish this book. What it's going to be is about 2/3 things that I've already published. And, a lot of those things are kind of well known in circles where people study Iranian cinema or write about it or whatever. And I'd like those to be in print. I'd like there to be, to be available in book form. And then I'm going to write, a third new things that are going to sort of fill in the gaps as I see, and cover subjects that I haven't written about before, and update some things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we're meeting a little early in the process of the publication.
Yeah.
But there is a reason why we are getting together, and that is you are doing an Indiegogo campaign, right?
That's right. Exactly.
To raise funds so you can. Do you have a publisher, or is that part of the?
No, there is I'm working with an editor.
I see.
Who is going to start his own film book imprint as a publisher.
Okay.
So we are probably going to publish it through this new imprint of his, but we are going to hold off on making a final decision on that until the book is completely done. And we can show it around some and see if there's any publisher. But there's so many advantages to self-publishing that I'm very much inclined to go that direction.
But first, you give an opportunity. Do you want to include this part of the conversation?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Well, I haven't looked at the early sections that you've already written, but I mean, it's even sounds like it's to some degree a work of scholarship. Is that fair to say? Or
well, the thing is I don't
broad?
look at it. It raises an interesting distinction. I don't look at the writing that I do as academic writing, and I don't look at this as being an academic book. And this is one thing I considered, which was to go through an academic press, because this, academic presses would be interested in a book like this.
As a subject matter, not necessarily in your style or format.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that if I went through an academic press, some of those have real prestige, et cetera, but they also take a couple of years of having academics review your work and da-da-da-da.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I wanted to maintain control, and I wanted to do it more quickly than that.
That's right. I forgot. That's right. I was told by a prior guest who did print something through an academic press, because I'm not going to remember. I do remember. It's Oxford.
Yeah.
But here in New York.
Right.
And he told me at length about the process of getting it published,
right,
and what you have to go through.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, I just want to mention this while we're on the subject of the Indiegogo campaign, that people can take a look. I think you're already 2/3 to your goal, by the way.
Yeah.
Congratulations about that. It's
right.
likely you'll meet it, but I don't want to discourage people from checking it out. To bring information about Iranian cinema to audiences is important, and so we should support that as well as the actual filmmaking. So I urge people to go to Indiegogo and check Google, or go to Indiegogo and search Godfrey Cheshire, and you'll come right up with
right,
it.
or Kiarostami.
Or Kiarostami, that's right. Speaking of Kiarostami, when was the first time you met Kiarostami?
I met him in New York in 1994 when he came here with Through the Olive Trees.
Okay, so it was right after you discovered it.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
It was the year after I published that article, that first article about him, and then I interviewed him, and I wrote an article for Film Comment, which was the first article I know published in the United States about his work, and that was 94, 95, something like that.
So was he familiar already with the Film Comment article?
Yes, I think so. I think so. As a matter of fact, I met some friends of his in Iran, I think, that had read it and had translated it and had been very, very positive about that first article.
And, of course, there were all these film critics or American, writers trying to get his attention at that point.
I don't think so. I don't think that many people knew about him at that point.
So you kind of had a head start in creating a special relationship with him, which was kind of important.
Right.
And so over the years, I guess, whenever he would come in, I suppose you...
Well, I saw him in Iran a lot, too.
Oh, wow.
Because I started going to Iran in 97, and the people in the government there, in the Ministry of Culture and Islamic Guidance, as it's called, were aware of what I was writing and really liked it, and so I started being invited to their annual film festival, which at that time took place in February, and so I started going, and I would see him, visit him at his home then, and then also I was with him at the Cannes Film Festival when Taste of Cherry won the Palme d'Or. And
great film.
Had a kind of an adventure there, and then I went to Iran and spent a good chunk of the summer after that. And he was very, very generous with his time. He let me interview him about all of his films, and he drove me up to Kokar, the village that was destroyed in the earthquake, and where he filmed his trilogy. And so I spent a lot of time with him there, and I spent time with him in other foreign festivals and such over the years, and saw him more in Iran too.
When you reference an adventure, are you just talking about visiting Iran and visiting his home, or are you talking about that you guys actually had some sort of adventure?
Well, there was a sort of an adventure around this whole Cannes Film Festival thing, because, I mean, leading up to it, the government almost didn't let the film leave Iran because it was controversial, the film, because it dealt with suicide.
Oh, right, yes, of course. Yeah.
And so up until the very last minute, it was unsure whether they would allow it. And I helped on my end by I was told by one of Kiarostami's associates that if I could get an article on the front page of Variety that said that this was, causing international concern or something like that, that it might help the pro-Kiarostami forces in the government in Iran. And so I did. I got that article published on the front page of Variety, and I was told that the foreign minister of Iran took it to the powers that be, and eventually they let the film go, but they let it go. And I got on the plane for Paris not knowing that the film would be let go, and it was only when I got to France that I found that they had let it go. But then there was a big drama of could it get to Paris and be subtitled and in time to get to the festival. So it was like a real cliffhanger. People didn't know until the very last minute whether the film would even show up, and then it shows up at the very last minute and gets all this acclaim and wins the Palme d'Or. And I was after Kiarostami did his press conference, after winning, he came out and he and I went and had a drink at a bar on the beach, and then we walked back to the Palais where they're going to have the big banquet, for the closing night. And I realized we're walking along and nobody's paying attention. Then all of a sudden we get close to the thing, and the photographers realize who it is. And, he enters this cone of dazzling light. And I draw back, but then the Iranians that were part of the party there saw me and said, "No, you have to come in." So I went and had, enjoyed the banquet. I had to borrow a jet coat from somebody because I just had on a T-shirt. But that was part. But then, what happened was Kiarostami, in accepting the prize, accepted a kiss from Catherine Deneuve, who presented it to him, and that caused a huge uproar among the Islamists in Iran. So when he got back, there were huge demonstrators that were besieging the airport. Mohsen Makhmalbaf sent a gang of his thugs to beat up the other thugs. Kiarostami had to slip out the side door to get home, all this stuff. And
this you heard secondhand, or were you were there?
I was not there, but I was supposed to go there. But what happened was I had my own set of problems in that the Iranian government had just been convicted of a terrorist incident in Germany, I believe it was, and had withdrawn all of its ambassadors from Europe. So I went to Paris to get a visa to go to Iran, and there was no ambassador, so they were not giving out any visas.
Right.
And I spent like 4 weeks or so in Paris trying to figure out how I could get to Iran. And eventually what I did was Mohsen Makhmalbaf in Tehran told me to FedEx my passport to someone in New York. from Paris, and I did that. I thought
You have
this
to be cautious.
this
because,
is one of the craziest things I've ever done.
Yeah, right. You were in jeopardy. If it got lost, you may have had a hard time getting.
Yeah,
leaving,
I would have
leaving,
had a very hard time. So anyway, I sent the passport to New York. The guy in New York sent it to another Iranian guy in Washington. I eventually got it back with a visa stamp so I could get on the plane and go to Tehran. So I got on the plane and went to Tehran, and I got there in time to go to Kiarostami's birthday party, which was his birthday's on June 22nd. So I got there just in time for that, and then I spent the rest of the summer there.
So what was your feeling of connection? Why do you feel like you had such a bond with this particular person? Oh, there seems to be a real kinship there.
Well, kinship is, it's funny you say that, because the last time I saw him, he said he regarded me as a member of his family. And I took that as real honor and a real token of this personal affection.
Yeah. What about you, though?
I felt like he was just one of the greatest people I ever met.
Why?
Well, he was just a person of just amazing artistic sensitivity, for one thing. It seemed like I've known a couple of other people like this who are, great artists who they're sort of interested in everything that's around them. They're very sensitive. And so, he had that, and he was very sensitive toward people. I think I wrote this story one time after he died. I think I put this in something I wrote for Roger Ebert. But there was one time where he told me he wanted to give me a gift before I left Iran. And he, he's a great photographer. And I went over to his house, and he showed me about, I think maybe something like 75 photographs that he had taken. And he would, we were sitting across a table, and he would show one, and I'd look at that for 10 seconds, and he'd show the next one, and go on to the next one. And so at the end, I said, okay, I know which one I want. And I said, this one. And he said, okay, great. Well, I'll have the print made, and I'll give it to you before you leave Tehran. And so I go back to his house to get it, and he said, I hate to tell you this, but that negative was damaged. And so I got them to make a print of the one that you like second best. And I said, how did you know the one I like second best? I didn't say that. And he said, I watched your face. He watched my face through 75 photographs, and he was right in thinking that photograph that you see right there was my second favorite of his photographs.
This one on the road,
yes,
which of course reminds me of A Taste of Cherry right there.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's when I say he had this sort of great, keen sensitivity toward people and toward everything around him. That's one example.
So was it unexpected when he died? Was that a shock?
Yes, it was very much. He had been ill. He had been in the hospital for several months. But what I'd heard was that a couple of months before he died, maybe even further back than that, he had sort of turned a corner and he was recuperating.
Oh, okay.
And so he was expected to get well, even though it was going to take several more months for him to be fully well. And then, so his death was very shocking. It was very not expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the last one he had at the festival, New York Film Festival, excuse me?
Like Someone
probably
in Love.
Like Someone in Love, right?
Yeah.
And then, because I remember going to see him do a talk with Lopate, I guess, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Well, you were sitting behind me, actually. And he seemed really, 100% and just wonderful. No indication at all that he was struggling or sick or anything.
Well, he wasn't.
At that point, he was.
Yeah, no, he was not.
So it was a quick decline, then. It must.
Well, he went in for a routine operation, and some mistakes were made because the regular doctor was on vacation, and the guy who did it was not informed about various things regarding medication or blood or something like that. So mistakes were made.
Yeah.
And the thing that he went in for should have been a fairly simple thing.
That's tragic.
Yeah, it really is terribly tragic.
He had so many more years of...
Yes, his mother had just died last year at age 102.
Did she die before him?
Yeah, I think, just not long before him. Yeah.
102.
Yeah.
We shall have such good genes.
Yeah, exactly. No, he had very good genes.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to let people know that... so do you have a title for the book yet? Or?
Yes, I'm calling the book In the Time of Kiarostami, Writings on Iranian Cinema. Mm-hmm. And I chose that title in a way. It was suggested by my friend Catherine Diekman, who I think I've already mentioned, because it really is about my writings about the Kiarostami era, which is now over. It ended with his death. So it's really my writings about all that time, from the time I started writing about Iranian cinema up until he passed away.
And he was really had become an international. I mean, we mentioned Someone in Love, which was shot in Tokyo, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you become something of an international filmmaker by this point, where he's not only known internationally and his films play internationally, but he's actually shooting and creating and filmmaking internationally.
Yeah, he had he'd made a certified copy in Italy and like Someone in Love in Japan, and he was planning a new feature in China.
Oh,
and he was going to shoot that.
Oh, yeah.
I never got to really ask him why he hadn't made a feature in Iran or why he was sort of avoiding Iran. I think it may have had to do something with the political situation there, but it's hard to say. But he was attracted to these other cultures. He was genuinely interested in them, and I think he wanted to prove to himself that he could do what he did pretty much anywhere. So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, and in a way, he becomes an ambassador in a sense that he is shooting in these other countries representing Iranian filmmaking abroad. Which is not a bad thing. Other than himself, Benahi, and one or two others, I'm sure you could rattle off a half dozen other filmmakers very easily that are included in your book, probably. But most of us only know the name Kiarostami, and we're even a select number,
right? Well, there's also now Asghar Farhadi.
Of course, that's true, and he just won the Oscar.
He won the Oscar twice, and the only people that have done that,
he's been on the show.
Their names are Fellini, Bergman, and De Sica.
Oh wow!
So he is in very select company now as an Iranian filmmaker
for best foreign language film
more than
one time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He didn't go and get the. He didn't. He didn't end up going because of the
Trump travel
all
ban.
the anti. Yeah.
Yeah. He announced that he would not attend that.
That's somebody I can respect, and fortunately for me, he did come in earlier, and I got to. I think you met him probably during that visit as well, but I did have him on the podcast. So that was good fortune. He's
I met him
guy.
Several years ago and have seen him a number of times since then.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I call him Oscar. What about you?
What?
Well, it's sort of the English version of
Oscar. Yeah, that works. He probably doesn't mind that at all.
No, he laughed. He laughed. Well, that's good. So, do you have any more trips planned?
Well, the trip in April to Iran, where I did speak at the Kiarostami tribute, and it was also in conjunction with their annual film festival, which I attended. I got to really renew a lot of friendships and reestablish a lot of connections that I'd had to the cinema there and the film culture. And I love Iranian people and culture. I love going there. It was really a great thing for me to go back after so many years of having not gone. And I felt like it kind of sort of renewed my whole commitment to Iranian cinema as a subject and as a part of what I'm doing. And so I'm working on several other projects besides this book. I wish I could talk about them, but I can't at this stage. But I intend to do a lot more in this realm, and I would hope that I will be going back to that festival like every year. I'd like to. So I don't have another trip planned, but there is a chance I may go back to Iran before the end of this year again for something else, and I want to keep going back.
Have you published a book before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I haven't.
So that's also.
But speaking of publishing, Film Comment is going to publish an article I wrote about the trip to Iran in April, where I touch on a number of things about what's going on in Iran now.
And when's that?
I think that will be in their September-October issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't help for the sake of your
this
campaign, but
right. No, exactly. Yeah. So there is this campaign, and I'm going to write something also about Kiarostami's final film, 24 Frames, which will be coming out at some point. I just don't know when.
Is that being completed by other filmmakers, or?
Well, he had basically completed it.
Oh, right.
And his son Ahmed and some others did the final tweaking, and but it was pretty much completed. I've seen it, and it's very good.
Where was that shot?
It was It's funny because it is 20. It's called 24 Frames, and what it is it's 24 short films, and each of those films is based on a photograph or a painting, and what happens is he uses computer-generated imagery to, make things happen within the frame based on this.
So no actors.
No actors. There's
interesting.
no actors, no story. It's
Right.
just a sort of a visual, kind of experimental kind of thing. But it is quite enjoyable to watch the whole thing.
And 24 Frames is also a reference, right, to
Well, Godard's famous thing was cinema is the truth 24 times a second, or 24 frames a second.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it refers to that, but it's 24 of these 4-minute films that add up to 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is each segment is a frame that something happens within.
Understood.
Yeah.
Oh, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
When does that do?
I don't know when it's going to come out.
Okay.
It is going to come out. It does.
Yeah.
There's a distribution deal for it.
It would be nice if it were in like a New York Film Festival, but
yes, it would be great if it were there.
It may be. I guess they may hold a spot for it.
Exactly.
Check out Godfrey Cheshire's his Indiegogo campaign for this new fascinating book on Iranian cinema in the time of Kiarostami. And you continue to write, obviously, for Film Comment, IndieWire, excuse me, and maybe most notably for Roger Ebert.
That's right, yes. I'm in there almost every week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's how you can keep abreast of
right.
your output. It's great seeing you again.
Okay, Adam, it's great to see you.
Okay, till next time.
Okay.
Music on this episode are tracks from the artist Blue, his album To Hell With You. Blue he was on the Columbia record label for about a minute, and that's how I discovered him, because I was working at Sony Music at the time, and I immediately just really loved this album that he did, and got to see him perform in New York a few times. We were trying to get him on the podcast, actually, as I try to do occasionally, bring on a musician, and he agreed to do it. We were emailing, and then he came into town like last week or the week before, and we were texting back and forth trying to make it work out, but it was almost impossible with the combination of our schedules for this visit. But we'll eventually get Blue on the show. The idea was I was so excited was to have him come on and maybe play a song or two live, as well as do have other segments. But it just didn't quite work out. So we'll hopefully do this later in this year. We'll have him on, but enjoy what you do here, and if you do like it, do pick up this new album or download it. BLEU is the name of the artist, and the name of the album again is To Hell With You. And check out the rest of his music. If you love power pop or singer-songwriters like him, you should just support what he does. While I have your attention, and right before we go into my conversation with Richard Edson, I hope by now you're a subscriber, and by now you've given me a star rating on iTunes, and of course you've written a review for the show on iTunes. If you haven't done so, please take a moment and just do me that great kindness and favor, because it really does help more people discover this podcast and what I'm trying to do. I've been in the midst in the last week or two just reaching out to all sorts of people from the film industry and filmmakers, and just kind of focusing on the pioneers of independent film. And so what I'm hoping is in the coming weeks is to have a whole bunch of episodes with indie pioneers, trying to shift the focus for a while of the show to there. Not to say that I will not continue to bring on new filmmakers or filmmakers with new work, but I'm trying to find to even carve the niche of what I'm trying to do with this show even more so. So that's my goal. And some of these people have been on before, and some people have not. And I've already gotten a few commitments, and I will just give you one example. Speaking of Richard Edson, and that period of time with John Lurie and Jim Jarmusch and the downtown New York scene. Eric Mitchell, French-born, but was one of these downtown no-wave underground filmmakers. If you just look him up, you'll see what he was doing. He has agreed to come onto the show. So that's just one example of many that I'm working on right now. Anyhow, so let's get into this conversation. This is a phone conversation, a long and rambling but lovely conversation that I have with this guy who I always wanted to know and talk to. And I did this conversation, Richard, at the time, I'm not even certain in this day and time if he's still in Los Angeles, but at the time he was living in Los Angeles. You'll hear from the conversation that he was kind of at his last wits, and he was really kind of strongly considering moving out of Los Angeles. So I have to catch up with him. So this was, I guess, about a year or a year and change. Maybe it was spring of 2016 or so. And then, as it turns out, the following fall, right, September, or October, September of 2016, he's up at the Woodstock Film Festival. And I went up there, and I knew he was going to be there, and we got to meet in person. But when we did this phone conversation that you're about to hear, it was so long, I couldn't really play the entire phone conversation. If it was in person, I would have. But because of the lower quality that I get from a phone conversation, you'll see, I can't expect people to listen for hours to it. But please do put in your earbuds or on your headphones and give this a listen and really stick with it, because he's just a lovely guy. I'm hoping what I'm going to try to do eventually is, of course, bring Richard on again for an in-person conversation, which is what I really hope to do. Anyway, this is my conversation with the second part of this conversation that I had with the filmmaker, the actor. He's a musician. He was a drummer, for God's sake. I believe he was... Yeah, before he even got involved in acting, he was a drummer. He played in an early incarnation of Sonic Youth as the drummer, and then he went on to be the drummer in the rhythmic dance band Conk, for those of you who remember that band. Anyhow, in this conversation, he talks a lot about, he names names, he really doesn't hold back, and in his own loving style, though, he still comes across for some reason like he's not being vindictive in any level. He's just an honest guy, because he started off as in these indie films, and then he moved into doing bigger budget films. He's a character actor, so he's like working with Jim Belushi, and he's working with Tom Arnold, and he goes into details a little, about what it was like working with them, as well as what it was like working with people like John Lurie and filmmaker Ozza Jacobs, who has been on the show before. So stick with it, give it all your attention, and enjoy my conversation with filmmaker, actor, artist, musician, photographer, Richard Edson.
All right, so we're in the car. I think he loses the job, and he has a check spent. Maybe it wasn't $1 million. Anyway, he's giving me a check. I think it was $60,000, $100,000, and so we're waiting to do the scene. And I'm in we're in this truck. There's a camping truck that I had that I lived in, and he. So we're sitting there ready to do the scene. I asked him, what was the largest check he ever got? And he goes, $5 million from Roseanne when we had our divorce.
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
$5 million
just to walk away. Yeah.
To walk away. I was like, you're a lucky son of a bitch. The other thing was that in the movie, I had an opportunity to do as much physical comedy. I mean, that was my approach. I'm going to do physical comedy. Every scene I do, I'm going to do something physical and something comic. Within the content, it wasn't like I was trying to pull the attention of me, but it was like reactive to whatever Tom was doing. And it was funny, and people were really enjoying it. It's like I set up a grill in one scene. I was roasting hot dogs. And this is when Tom comes to reclaim his clothes because he had nothing to wear after he gave them all to me. And so he finds me in this park, but I'm grilling this hot dog with this long, what do they call these little, the fork thing where you lift up you turn them.
Yeah, sure. I don't know, barbecue, tong. I don't remember. Yeah, I know what you mean.
The tong, yeah,
whatever.
So I had the beer, so I'm like, turning the hot dogs, and my beer was set down next to it, so I picked up the beer with the tongs, and I drank a little, put it down, and, silly little stuff like that they really love. And, and I had fun doing it, thinking up things. But Tom got really jealous of me because he thought I was still in the scenes from him. And he tried to get physical with me in a way that was not very cool. Like, he's a big guy, and he's about 6'2", he weighs about 220, and he really hurt me.
Really?
And he had like pushing me and slapping, like within the scene that it looked like it could have been part of the scene, but it was really a little, I knew it was like It was too hard. So I went to Penelope and I said, what the fuck? You see what he's doing, man? Why, this ain't cool. And she goes, oh my, comedians. They're like, they always think somebody else is being funnier than they are.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be. I'm just trying to help the scenes along. And she just rolls her eyes. Oh, comedians. And I was like, you going to do anything? You going to say anything? And she said, well, Tom's producing the movie. So she never said anything. And to my regret, I let him keep doing like 3 more times, and I just should have shut him down, threatened to quit or whatever. I didn't really care. The movie stuck. I was making some money, but It wasn't worth it to be abused like that. But, and it's funny, the only other guy that really abused me was Tom Arnold.
You mean James Belushi?
Huh?
James Belushi, you mean?
Say what?
You just said the only other guy was Tom Arnold, but you mean James Belushi? Jim Belushi?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Belushi.
Yeah.
What's his first name?
Jim or James? Jim or James?
Jim Belushi. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing a scene, just another terrible movie called...
well, that's like redundant. You're saying Jim Belushi and a bad movie is like...
Yeah, right? Right? But this was especially very bad. It was called Destiny Turns on the Radio, and it starred Quentin Tarantino as one of the actors in it. And, as good a filmmaker and as good a writer he is, that's how bad an actor he is.
Totally.
But, in his mind...
You're not helping me get him on the podcast, but what can I do?
Well, you could disagree with me and play it out. He's like, no, Edson, you're completely fucking wrong. He's a genius actor.
He's just above our heads.
You want to start over again? So
no, not at all. I'm only joking. No, not at all.
Just saying his acting. But so we're doing a scene in a strip club, and I play a cop. And I'm going to ask Belushi something, and it was kind of a little complicated scene in which we start close up on me and this other cop, not close up, but close, basically from behind us. And we're talking to Belushi in his office, and then the camera pushes in between us to a close-up of Jim, and we're supposed to curl around the camera and walk into the shot at the end. So I think it might have been even in the rehearsal or the first take. No, the first take.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up not, hesitating because I didn't really know where the mark was. I just hesitated just a bit, and then I found it. And then he bawled me out after the cut. And he bawled me out for fucking up the scene.
In front of everybody, right? In front of the crew. In
front of everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody knew he was completely out of line. It wasn't as personal as it was just demonstration of his general assholery.
Mm-hmm.
And, but still, I regret not having said anything, that it just seems better just to hold your tongue and not cause any kind of conflict. But I still should have. Especially with Tom Arnold.
Well, Jim Belushi, he has
a long story, saying negative things about people. But I said a lot of positive things.
Yeah. And I think actually, like Arnold, he may have come around quite a bit because I think he's come down a few pegs. Tom Arnold.
What about him?
I think he's probably been cut down a few pegs. I think he may have come around a bit. You never know. Some of these guys are assholes, but they end up like kind of becoming a little bit more human again.
Humble.
Human? Humble, exactly. I don't know if that's the case, though. I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, well...
The last thing, is...
No. We got something else to talk about.
Please.
That's very important that you may not have known about or...
Well, you also work with Charlie Sheen, so there a couple of times.
A couple of times, yeah. But I want to get away from all this Hollywood crap.
Oh, sure.
For me to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I was about to, actually, but go ahead.
But I really got disillusioned after I did Super Mario Brothers because it was such a huge production and it was so much trouble and there was so much power struggles and I had the dubious pleasure of working with Dennis Hopper, and not to do. I loved Bob Hoskins, fantastic guy, serious, funny. He was great. Everybody was great in that movie. I mean, as persons and the way we did it. But I made more money on that movie than I made on any other movie, and it's just such a lousy experience. It's such a bad indication of what I had got myself into.
Yeah.
Even though I could try to do a little physical comedy in it, I did one thing where I walk into a plate of glass. It's two workers walking out of a store with a plate of glass, and I run into my head, and I was so proud of the way I did that, because it was 3 feet away, and they shot it from an angle that didn't look 3 feet away, so I had to pantomime the entire thing. Hitting on the head, my reaction, my stumbling. I was so proud of myself for doing that as well as I did. I was like, man, that's worthy of great silent film comedy. But I thought, okay, people are going to see that. I'm going to get some more work. But from that point on, and it was such a disaster, and it really ruined Samantha Mathis's career.
She
never really worked in any. She was a rising star at that
Oh my
point.
God, and she's so lovely. She had done and she had done.
Wait, I'm losing you.
I'm sorry, I'm right here. She had done with Christian Slater. She'd done the Samantha Mathis.
Yeah, that's what she did after. She did that one about country music.
No, I was thinking of what was the name of that movie? She did quite a few big Hollywood films. You're right, and then she just fell off the face of the earth, right? Pump Up the Volume.
And yeah. Oh, but that she did that before.
Yeah.
And then she was I think she did one thing after, and this was her big Hollywood introduction, and it was also John Leguizamo's first movie.
Yeah. Who I saw off Broadway when he did his one-man show right before. I said that guy is going to break.
Yeah.
You could tell from watching his show he was going to be a star. Just he had that kind of charisma and talent. And I thought she was. Go ahead.
I always thought that what he did on stage never really translated as well to film. I mean, he's a good film performer, but he's a genius stage performer.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
In my humble estimation. You agree with me?
I completely. I think that's very accurate.
So anyway, that was 94. This is after Shannon's deal where I got introduced to the whole television world, and then, I think I did a couple things between that, and then I got into Super Mario Brothers, and it was so disheartening after that, and then all the work I got after that, there was nothing that I could really do anything with as an actor. So I just felt myself getting into this box of just showing up and doing, not.
Yeah. In other words, phoning it in.
To it.
Right.
Huh?
Phoning it in.
No, I would always be serious about what I was doing as an actor, but I couldn't relate to the largest picture, and I couldn't really identify with what we would the end product. I could identify with the process, what I had to do when I took that seriously, but that was it. And I kept doing these shitty movies and not really interesting roles, and I was really fed up, and I didn't really know what to do because I had committed 15 years, and I kind of hoped that once I reached a certain position, then I'd be able to define what and who I wanted to work with. But I didn't really think of the implications of how I'd been forced into becoming the sort of actor that I never intended to, and the way that I saw acting was so different than what I was seeing around me that it was kind of a time in which I really despaired of being an actor and being in the film business, but I still kept at it because I was hoping for something that would let me start working with other people and doing another kind of acting, although I really couldn't define it at the time. Now I can. But, so at that time I met this young French filmmaker named Raphael Najari. And we did 3 movies. He was a French guy, and we did 3 movies together in New York. And they were all very serious kind of movies, which I tried to talk him out of, but I don't know, he's a serious guy, and we didn't do it, but they were a lot of improvisation in terms of, before we did a scene, we would get together and, like 99, 2000, 2001, and 98, 2000, 2001. Very serious films, and we would improvise the scenes before we shot them, and I was saying that I'm comfortable with that, but other actors are not very comfortable with that at all. And but they were very, dialogue was the least important thing. And it's interesting, if you treat dialogue as more of a expression of character than as a storytelling device, not an expression of character within the dynamic of a certain scene. So in a way, it doesn't matter what you say as much as how you say it and how that expresses the character's relationship to each other. So we found, we didn't have to think too hard about what we were actually saying, but about what it meant in terms of the relationships and how it was like another physical aspect of acting instead of a verbal aspect. I don't know if that makes sense.
It sounds like it's more about your intention behind the language.
Exactly. And you can read that through the face and through the body language and through gestures. And so those 3 films, and the first one, they got into Cannes Film Festival. The second one was in the Berlin Film Festival. The third one was in the Cannes Festival. And it did pretty well in Europe. Yeah.
It's just too bad you couldn't get into any halfway decent festivals, huh?
Yeah, right. But they tried to sell them at those festivals to the American independent companies at that time, distributors, but none of them wanted it. And I think it was because they were, they were too serious. I'm not sure why they were very good. And of all of the films I did since Stranger in Paradise, they're the ones that I'm most proud of, even though there's almost no humor in them. But each one I play a completely different character with a completely different way of walking and talking and being. I'm really proud of what I did in them. But since they couldn't get an American distributor, they just gave up on America completely and never entered them in any festivals. And this is 2001 and 2002, and it was like nobody saw what I did. I mean, in Europe they did, but nobody in America saw what I did. None of my friends, none of my family. It was never in the theaters. It was not a element within the film universe.
What was it? Good.
What was the name of them?
What was the name of the filmmaker? Raphael what?
Najari.
Okay.
N-A-J, Najari.
Got it.
N-A-J-A-R-I? No, there's a D in it. N-A-J-D-A-R-I.
Okay.
But you look it up. There's 3 movies called The Shade. I Am Josh Polanski's Brother, and Apartment 5C. And it's just a shame nobody saw him. And at that point, I kind of gave up. It's like, here's the best things I did. Nobody ever saw him. I come back to fucking Hollywood, and I get offered, I have to audition for a job in a dumb sitcom as the janitor in a building that has 2 lines. And at that point, I just gave up. I just said, fuck it, I don't care. Nobody seems to care about me. I have to go back to what originally sustained me and interested me, which was writing and music and photography. And that's even though I work every now and then, that's basically what my interest is, and I really don't care about acting because there's no demand to do the kind of acting I want to do.
Mm-hmm. But you did make a little bit, been a while already, but I noticed you were in Mama's Man.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Ozza Jacobs was a camper in the summer camp that I used to work at. So we were friends.
Say what?
He the filmmaker Azazel Jacobs. We went to the summer camp together, and he was like he's a little younger, but we went to summer camp together, so we're sort of friendly.
Oh, okay.
Now that he's a big HBO, you know, he's in a big he has a series on HBO.
Okay, don't ask me about that movie.
Okay. Easier said than done, or done.
Don't ask me this. No, that was very instrumental in. Part of the reason, I don't know. You can ask me that. I don't give a fuck. You brought it up. I knew. What's his name?
The filmmaker.
Yeah.
Ozza.
Ozza. Yeah. Which is great enough. You know, it's short for Ozabel, which is one of the names of Satan.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? That's true.
Oh wait, no, you're right. Azazel was that? Yeah. So his parents had a sense of humor.
Yeah. You know who his father is? He's a famous experimental filmmaker of this generation.
Oh, Ken Jacobs.
Brackage.
Yeah. Ken Jacobs? Yes.
Ken Jacobs.
That's right, I forgot. Yes, Ken Jacobs.
Who did the movie. Who
yeah.
did the mom. So,
right.
So, you know,
his parents
at that point I would
play his parents. His parents play his parents in that.
Yeah.
Or his parents play, his parents, and then he has
parents play the parents.
Right, and it's I don't remember the actor anymore, but he goes back, and his wife is back up in Boston with or just had a baby or something, or just about to have a baby, and he's like decides to hibernate and escape and not come out of it. He
kind of become an infant again or something.
Yeah, and to be taken care of by his parents again because of his fear of growing up. Yeah. It's a very emotional movie. I think it works. But go ahead.
But you know, at that point, I'm like, I don't know when that was. You have your IMDb open?
Yeah, that was 2008.
2008?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, 2008? Are you kidding?
Well, they probably shot it 2006. Maybe he was shooting it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this is after I did those three movies that were so disappointed or heartbreaking and that nobody ever saw them. And I'm like, no, I really want to work with people who kind of get what I want to do and are much more independent in spirit than the Hollywood stuff. And Ozabel.
Ozza. Uh-huh.
He asked me to be in the movie, and we were kind of friends at that point, and he really, he always like, oh, you're so great, and then, he offers me this like one scene role, and it's all dialogue, and I had to say yes because he kept bugging me. It's like I can't. Oh, after a while,
it's our summer camp.
And,
sorry,
but I'll tell you, this has been a lot more enjoyable than that.
Oh.
And I just felt, I was back in the box, and that I was just being used as much more of a little name thing that he could attach to the movie, but not really given anything to do that I wanted to do.
I see. And
I think that was one of the another instrumental things. Here's an independent filmmaker who I really like as a person, and who's pretty good as a filmmaker, but he won't even give me an opportunity to do something significant.
Right.
I'm not talking about a lead, but at least something.
I have a theory though about where he's coming from.
Okay.
And this is it, because I think that might have been a second feature. In fact, it was his second feature, and I don't think anybody saw the first one. But my fear...
First one was good.
Yeah.
I like the first one.
But he's still really unknown as a filmmaker, and I think probably he was just so. This is just guesswork. I could be completely off base here, but he could just wanted you in it and really didn't have the understanding that this was not going to be a fulfilling experience for you. Maybe he wanted something you in anything, not realizing that it was going to be very unfulfilling for you, an experience. But, for him, it could have been like, well, I only have this thing, but can you please do it? It's almost like a cameo,
Well, you can never underestimate the egomania of
a Hollywood, right, or of a Hollywood star like yourself, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, to be worried, thinking just for himself is not unusual.
True.
Anyway, that was another kind of
disappointment,
depressing incident. It kind of hits you later. Why did I ever come out to Hollywood in the first place?
Well, we want I don't know. I want you to be happy and feel good and have a restored sense of optimism, of course. So, because I'm sort of that kind of person. But you mentioned maybe before, very, 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 almost as an aside, that you may consider coming back to New York City. I don't know if that's still something you're really thinking about doing.
Yeah. By the way, you know anybody who is renting an apartment?
Well, Richard Sandler is moving out of his to move upstate.
Oh, there you go.
Where would you have to live in Manhattan, or could you actually now live in like I don't know, probably still the best idea, right?
Anywhere but Williamsburg.
Gotcha.
The place I really want to live is in Fort Greene.
It's a beautiful spot.
I was staying there for a music video I did, and man, it was so cool. It was so diverse, and people.
I know. No, believe me, I was in an interracial marriage, and we lived there. I too. It's like every other couple seemed to be an interracial couple that lived in that neighborhood. And of course, Spike has his production office there. His production.
Yeah, it was Fort Greene.
No, he's still there. Still there.
There you go. He probably bought the building, and now it's worth a fortune.
Oh well, yeah, I know he owns the building, but he lives in Upper East Side, but where he probably owns that building too. But he owns his production company still in Fort Greene.
Yeah, you didn't ask me about Spike. But what have we been? We've been talking like for an hour and a half.
No, more than that, my friend.
More than that.
It's fine.
I told you I'm good.
You are good.
I just have to be in the right mood. The other day you talked to me. I hadn't slept that night. I was in such a rotten mood, and my voice changes when I don't sleep.
Sure.
So I was like, and the idea of doing this was so. At that moment, it was so horrible that's why I just ignored your phone call. No, I didn't even know you were calling. I just forgot about it, to tell you the truth. But
well, forgetting about it's a lot better than ignoring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, maybe I did ignore it, but I couldn't admit it. But if you want to keep talking, I'm good. I got nothing to do this. Well, I have things to do, but no appointments. I could keep talking whether you want it or not. I mean, whether you want to.
Well,
I think we covered a lot.
We did definitely covered a lot. I mean, you're right. I mean, the Spike Lee thing, I guess I didn't really get into. But, it's interesting. He's like one of those guys. I guess I just didn't really. I originally really wanted him on the podcast because, actually John Sale, as I mentioned, had quite a few of these folks, on the podcast. But I haven't really pushed for him too much because I tried a few times early on and couldn't get anywhere with it. And then I started to rethink. I'm like, he's so temperamental, or maybe that's not the right word, but he can be a very challenging interview. And if it doesn't click, it's a disaster. So I don't know.
You talking about Spike?
Yeah. So it's like I just backed off of it. Pursuing getting him to do it, even if he would do it.
You might get him on a good day, and he'll give you more than, you might get lucky.
That's right.
But you seem like a person, you're doing this, you just have to be persistent and,
that's
can't be a shy man.
Right. Well, it's also getting through to people.
Right. Which you had to, I know how difficult it was to get through my people.
Yeah. You're your people, so you're the hardest one. Well, we could maybe do this. Maybe if you move east, And I'll try to be your East Coast contact person for trying to help broker a some sort of apartment or something. I'll try. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have your share of friends. I'm sure you have your share of friends in New York City, though.
Yeah. No. I burned every bridge I have. No, I do. But yeah, I'm just looking because my building out here just got sold, and I live in this beautiful old factory building, which is raw space, like old school New York loft, and downtown LA is developing like crazy, and they just bought it, and they want to get us out of here and get lawyers, so we don't know what's going to happen. And I'm ready to leave LA anyway, so I'm not sure if New York, if something great comes up, I definitely move to here. Get a place in New York.
Could you see yourself living anywhere else?
Huh?
Could you see yourself living anywhere else?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anywhere else. Like, I was thinking maybe I'm going to go, I have 150,000 miles on my American Airlines, which would give me enough to go business class around the world. So I was thinking maybe I'll go the other way, east, where I just keep going west. I go to Japan, Vietnam, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Turkey. I'm not sure what countries in Europe, but maybe Morocco,
Well,
Egypt, Morocco, and then go hit maybe one of the southern African or black Africans where they more musical, and then go to New York, like spend 6 weeks going around the world and get to New York.
Oh, I see.
That may be.
That's a great idea. If you need someone to carry your bags around, let me know. I'm available.
Oh, my bags?
Yeah, just carry your bags.
How much mileage do you have?
None. I had to scrounge around just to get myself to South by Southwest in a couple weeks. I have to go to.
Go around the world if you don't have any of that on business class. Yeah, I don't know how much that would cost. That would cost a lot of money.
Yeah, but there's no. Yeah, a lot.
But the good thing about business class is that you could stop anywhere and do anything for any amount of time, and then come back at any time and then rebook your flight. When if you're doing coach, you can't do that. You have to set up an itinerary and stick to it.
Right. Well, it sounds like a fantastic idea. When are you going to do it if you don't do it?
If I do, maybe start December 1st, because I think that's when they want us out of here.
Oh, next December?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if my mother would like it, but...
your mom still... Is mom still around?
Yeah, she needs some... Yeah, she needs... she's still alive. She's like 91.
She's in Long Island? Or no. In Westchester. Newark. Right. Well, I'll check in on her.
This stuff, you're gonna put this stuff in the...
Yeah. Unless you have an objection. Okay. Unless you have an objection. Yeah. Why not?
No, okay.
Yeah, this is what people want to... They want to know.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That around the world thing, I'm not kidding. That might be amazing. And
I think it'd be... You could do some really amazing, maybe shoot some stuff. Unless you just want to have a completely analog experience and just be completely off the grid in that way. But you could also shoot some.
No, I would definitely shoot stuff. Both like film type stuff and still.
So I can carry the boom mic.
There you go.
The hell with the luggage.
I gotta say, I got this little Zoom microphone for $100 that you just stick on top of your. Well, I got 5D, so I just stick that on top of it, and I got all the sound I need.
Like a shotgun mic?
No, it's just it's a little shotgun, stereo shotgun mic, little one, but it's amazing. I mean, the sound reproduction, it's kind of cheaply made, but it's pretty amazing.
Well, what I can do, I do occasionally, I do a bunch of screenings and stuff like that over here. So maybe when you get all your footage together, we'll do something. Like I've done a couple of things with Charlie Ahern, and I've been around a while. Even Tom Chichillo, he has a new experimental film he just made, and I hooked him up with a distributor.
Don't ask me about Tom Chichillo.
Okay. I'm good like that. I know what's going on.
No, I'm not.
I didn't bring up John Lurie. I didn't bring up John.
But I wanted. You said you had a good story about him.
John?
Yeah, you said trying to get him on the show.
Well, yeah, no, I tweet. You know, he's on Twitter, so we tweeted back and forth a bunch because I just saw him. You know, he's kind of known for his tweets, and so I tweeted him directly, and then he got back to me immediately, and went back and forth, and then he said, you know, he's not going to talk about certain things and certain people, and then he said he would do a Skype just to kind of figure who I am. We got on Skype. It had to be about 8 or 9 months ago. We had a very nice.
He asked you about who?
He didn't ask me about anybody other than me. I mean, or he was just was kind of he was just talking. We were just chatting, you know. But he's a bit peculiar. But I don't really feel that way. But I mean, I feel like people would sense that he's peculiar. But I know, you know, who I'm talking with. You know, what I'm saying, and in my world, I'm used to people that live complicated lives, so I don't judge him in any way. And so we had this conversation, and then we emailed, and so I don't know, but there's a lot of stuff that's off the table that he will not talk about, you know.
What stuff?
They're just certain people, like Jim and Tom Waits, and certain people you just won't talk about them in a public way. But he told me off the record. He didn't say anything ill of you, but, you know, it's like... he's just got a lot on his mind. And the thing for me is, it's just as well, because then I would feel almost compelled, like, well, now I got to check with, like, you know, I got to, what am I going to do?
I understand you really don't want to, you know, air the dirty laundry that much. I mean, a couple little stories like the Tom Arnold and Jim Belushi, you know, because it really has to do with work and less to do with personal relationships and stuff that happened off the set. And I think, you know, he had a lot of trouble with Jim and credit, and I didn't know he had trouble with Tom, but, John's a particular guy. And did I say he's egomaniac? No, I didn't say that.
No.
I would never say that. You know, that's the Donald Trump thing, right? I would never call him an egomaniac. Never. He is one, but I would never call him one.
Gotcha.
How Trump gets away with some of this shit is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But that's another discussion, right?
Yeah, it's in my other podcast, which is talking about candidates.
We'll talk politics. I can go on about that, too.
I'm sure.
I mean, more than just electoral politics. More interesting stuff. Can I ask, I would love... I'm going to send you my experimental films, and now I'm going to send you that little short I did that I like to think is a, as close to a silent film as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love it if you would get it to those people you say are your friends. What's the name guy did In the Pines?
Derek and Shannon.
Eric and his wife. Yeah.
Sure, I'll do that.
He is one. Even though I stood you up.
Well, you didn't ultimately, so it doesn't really.
Yeah, but I mean, you know,
history will show otherwise. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I kind of made it up for it, right?
More than made up for it.
There you go. So, please send it over. You know, I hope you like them yourself, and I'll give you some idea of what I like to do and like how I like to approach things, both in terms of filmmaking and in terms of, you know, an artistic aesthetic or practice. But please, that would be great. And even, you know, just as a film, but there are very few people I want to work with. And he was like, I told my agent, it's like, that's that guy and the Danish guy. He's the only two people I know who's doing that type of filmmaking.
Right, and they both work with Ryan Gosling, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Nicholas Winding or Vinding Refn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's incredible. I'm a fan of his films. Also, even just before Drive, I mean, those Pusher film the trilogy he did was real disturbing, right? Pusher.
Yeah, I see that. I know people like rave about it. I mean, he's a pretty dark guy. I mean,
yeah. No, totally. Yeah, and he did it as a trilogy. He did Pusher, then With Blood on My Hands, and then on the Angel of Death. They're really. I mean, I made the mistake once of like watching the back to back one day, and it was just like I wanted to slip my wrists by the end of it. It was just so dark. But I will definitely get them to those guys. Of course. I mean, I haven't been in touch with them since my kids switched out of the same school. But, you know, I have their contact information, and we have a little bit of a history. So it would be easy for me to pass along your work and introduce you to Derek. I have his email, and I'll be happy to make the introduction.
I would appreciate that muchly.
You got it.
Greatly.
Got it.
Yeah, cool. Okay, is there anything else?
Well, you know, we'll just we'll stay in touch sometime, you know, and certainly when I edit this together, which may be looking like 2 episodes, but I think my audience isn't huge. You know, I get a couple of, you know, maybe 1,000 or 2,000. I don't know.
What? Only 2,000? Yeah, I thought this was going out to 200,000 people. I would have never given you all this time.
There you go. Well, I have thousands of people who listen, but not to every single episode. But anyway. Why was I talking about that? So I think though for the majority do like the longer format. So I don't know, or I could break it into 2 episodes. I'm sort of what's his name? Like I'm saying, what's his name? Like Tom Noonan, like he's obscure. But you know Tom Noonan, right?
Yeah.
I was over there and we did an episode recently, just a few weeks ago. And after like an hour plus, I had to leave myself. I had to go get my kid, and so I had to. But he was open to continuing to talk. So I felt terrible because he has so many great stories, and he's very open, you know, about it. And so he did promise me a part 2, and so we kind of focus, you know, on so we can because we talked a lot about his early years, but we didn't get into quite so recent stuff. So, but he's another one of these guys. These journeymen, you know, I like having on the show, like you, and you know, just people that have a real. So thank you very much.
Well, you know, I mean, just one other thing.
Sure.
I think this is kind of interesting from a career and from a actor's point of view. Is that because I came at it from such a different direction that I never really could identify myself as an actor. It was something I could do, something I was making a living at, but I think also that I was getting further and further away from the style of acting that I didn't even know I was so good at, or what I wanted to do. It was more like a subconscious thing that I could never really identify as an actor. Mm-hmm. And I would rather have identified as a writer, musician, or photographer. I mean, that's what I did identify with, and I had some professional success at either of those without really pushing them. But I think most actors that I know don't have those other areas in which they feel more as compelled to go there, or more compelled to go there, or identify with. And most of them, like a Tom Noonan, I think, or most of the actors I've ever work with may have another little artistic outlet that they'll participate in, but it's not that important, and that what they're really driven to and what they're really driven by is acting itself. And they totally identify as that, and I think Tom Noonan is an example of that. I think it's great that is what really drives them, but it's not me. So,
yeah,
if you identify me as an actor, fine. But
no. But I understand. No, but you're either way, you're an actor. I mean, it's just because you've acted so long.
Right,
But I understand as far as the way you identify yourself. I understand. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Well, I'll take you. Then, to me, it doesn't matter. I mean, to me, I'm just
having an identity crisis every morning.
I have my own too. I do.
There you go.
I get it.
There you go.
But well, however you define yourself, is first of all, it's fine. Fine by me, and it doesn't change to me who I'm talking with. So.
Yeah, and I have enough background that we could talk. But let me ask you this: with the other people, I mean, I was very, and I suspect other actors would be like this. But what I really talked about were the interrelationships or the relationships and the process of making the film more than the film itself or the story.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't talked about the story of any of those movies. But did you find that to be true generally of the people, of the actors you talked to, someone like Tom, or that it was more about the total picture of the film than about just that particular element of the relationships and the process?
It's an interesting question, actually, because I don't know that I've pointedly asked that specific a question, what about their, or you mean in terms of their contribution to a film? Like if they're part of something?
Now that I think about it, I don't know what I'm asking.
Well, it sounds like one thing that you're it makes me think about is, as an actor, are you, is it about you in the scenes you're in or in the scene you're in or whatever, or the moments you're in, or is it about what you're contributing to the film and the larger film, and
you mean you as a character or you as a
whatever you're as a character in the film, I mean that's also a big part of like a Hollywood movie. It's usually a vehicle for stars, so it's not even so much of a conversation, but in a lot of, let's say, character films, it can be interesting because you could have a big ego, but where they're thinking about themselves and their roles and how, and they're not really as concerned with the overall, how they're contributing to the overall picture, which is maybe putting the film first in a way. But
or people like that.
No, sure. Or are you getting at like if you don't identify yourself as an actor, so you're at first and foremost, you're like maybe just an artist type or something that's acting. Whereas a Tom Noonan, I'm sure identifies as an actor more than almost anything else. I mean,
yeah. That's what I meant, and I think it really can sustain people through the ups and downs a lot more than it sustained me because it's the most important thing in their life or their professional life, to their identity as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happened with me, it just took me further and further away from the things that I really wanted to do and accomplish.
Your essence.
And it wasn't until the last 10 years, and once I got back into those things, that I started fulfilling that thing. And I think, interestingly enough, I might not have been able to do that in New York. And that I needed this sense of kind of isolation here in L.A. Living downtown at the time when downtown was not downtown, that I could actually do that.
Right.
And, I'm just finishing this novel that I've been working on for 6 years. And it has nothing to do with film business. It's not a memoir. It doesn't have to do with me. So it's a real story, a ghost story. So, and it's been so much more fulfilling than 20 years of working in the film business, besides Saint in Paradise and the 3 movies I did with Raphael.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, working on those other movies was satisfying, but not in terms of my particular aesthetic.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing all that stuff, both the personal and the professional. I mean, it really I think this came out really special, actually. I had a sense it would, but it came out really. Yeah, I think it's going to be spectacular. I really do.
Oh, cool. Let me know. I probably won't listen to it, but let me know anyway.
Well, you already you lived it. Why do you don't need to relive it?
What'd you say?
I said you lived it, so you don't have to relive it necessarily.
I look good?
No, yes, you do. You do look good.
Really good on this podcast.
You're going to look, yes. But I said you lived it, so you don't necessarily have to relive it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I got to head into Manhattan, to Little Italy, maybe not far from where you used to live. So I'm sorry to cut this short.
I know. Yeah, we hardly got started here.
Well, if I need something, I'll call you back.
Okay, cool. Yeah. No, this was fun. I knew it would be if I was in a decent mood.
Right.
I don't know, it's just fun to do this sort of thing. But, yeah, if you could you just email me your, or text me your email so I know where...
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. And we'll definitely hook up you and the Sea in France Plum people.
Yeah, let me know what you think. I'm going to send the 7 little experimental films.
Oh, perfect.
20 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, and then I'll send the narrative one that got rejected from all the studios. I'm so sad. Not really.
I do. I want to see those Raphael movies, too. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how, but...
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can get them.
Yeah, well...
I know you can buy them on the internet, but... I mean, you can buy them, but in fact, I have to buy one.
All right, well, we'll see. I might be willing to.
Yeah, I'd love people to see those movies, but maybe someday, once I become a famous writer or musician or photographer.
Well, let me know how I can help you with that.
All right.
All right, man.
I appreciate your appreciation.
Thank you. It was great talking to you. Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Later.
All right. Be in touch.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the podcast. This is, again, episode number 416. We'll be back next episode with 2 of my favorite actors from Texas. 2 different segments I recorded a while back and finally have the opportunity to post. One is with actor Frank Mosley, and the other is with actor Heather Kafka. So that's on the next episode of the podcast. It's a Texas edition, if you will. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Filmwax Radio. Until next time, please do take care of yourself and the ones you love.